Dave McMenamin completely shuts the door on Zach LaVine potentially going to the Los Angeles Lakers. We're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about should the Bulls be buyers or sellers at the trade deadline and what that could mean for the team after February. We're going to also preview the game tonight against the new-look Toronto Raptors. All that plus a little bit of the mailbag right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bulls Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bulls news and content.
What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host here, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that being said, let's go ahead and get into the content. And so Dave McMenamin was interviewed on ESPN before the Los Angeles Lakers game yesterday, and he said this.
Let's talk about the trade deadline. It's 3 weeks away. Woj reporting that Pascal Siakam just got traded to the Pacers. When you hear about this stuff, what are you hearing about names that could be on the move and acquired by the Lakers?
Well, Kevin, a big name on the similar level of a Pascal Siakam that we've heard for months associated with the Lakers is Zach LaVine, but I'm told that's not happening. Laker fans, if you're you're thinking about the UCLA Bruin coming back to Los Angeles to help this team, don't count on it. You're going to looking at the Lakers surveying the market for point guard help, and one guy you can look at is certainly Tyus Washington with the Washington Wizards. He's 27 years old. He's highly efficient, 52% from the field, 42% from three. He's on a $14 million expiring contract, and we've seen the Wizards are not necessarily competitive right now with the group that they have, so perhaps they would be looking for some sort of future assets that the Lakers could bring that guy in right now. Another guy you look to is Colin Sexton, 25-year-old, athletic, competitive, averages about 17 points and 4 assists a game. More of a combo guard, but certainly someone that has ties to the Lakers in the sense that his agent Rich Paul also represents LeBron James and Anthony Davis. Those names aren't the same level as a Pascal Siakam and Zach LaVine, but they could be what could help this team down the stretch, especially with Gabe Vincent out with that knee injury.
We're talking about a team right now sitting 10th in the standings. That is the Lakers.
So that basically shuts the door completely on Zach LaVine going to the Los Angeles Lakers. And the reason I say basically is because there's still always a chance maybe those players aren't moved, aren't available, and, we see, the Lakers pivot back to Zach LaVine. But now you got to trust what we've been hearing. And while, basically since about November, the Lakers have been considered and talked about as a team that may even be the favorite to land Zach LaVine. And, we even got things saying that, I feel like eventually it's going to lead to Zach being with the Los Angeles Lakers. And now when you look at how things gone, they pivoted from Zach LaVine to OG Anunoby. He ends up getting traded to the New York Knicks. We then hear that they may be interested in Pascal Siakam. He ends up going elsewhere. And then we've heard that they pivoted to DeJounte Murray. Makes sense. But now when you start getting players like Colin Sexton and Tyus Jones being on their list above a Zach LaVine, that means that he's pretty far down that list. And the reasons are why. What we talked about, right? It's mainly the contract. If Zach LaVine was on a $22 to $25 million contract, he probably already would have been moved. And it's led a lot of Bulls fans that have been seeing this conversation come back up to, it's the contract. The Bulls should have never gave him that contract. Let's be clear here, Bulls fans, and this is why I hate revisionist history. No matter what, Zach LaVine was getting the max the season he was a free agent. Now, of course, the Bulls could have paid him more than other teams, but you're still looking at him by now being between a $35 to $38 million player. And again, so he was going to make that money regardless. And that's just really what it comes down to, is that the player, at the point that Zach LaVine was in free agency, he was going to get the max regardless. Supermax, hell no. He didn't even qualify for that. But he was going to get the max regardless. And as the salary starts increasing over the course of the NBA, this same $40 million contract for Zach LaVine in just next season or a season and a half from now is actually going to look pretty reasonable. But I do think that as far as right now, is taking teams, causing teams to have a little bit of a hesitation there when it comes to Zach LaVine. But like I said before, I do think that there is some of this that is posturing by both the Bulls and other teams available. Now, do you think could it be that the Bulls are holding the value for Zach LaVine way too high and it's causing teams to be out on trading for the talented shooting guard? Yeah, absolutely. But when you look at his age, younger than what Bradley Beal was, when you look at him and Pascal Siakam, yes, Pascal Siakam is a better player overall as far as defense and offense. With the way Zach's playing defense lately, maybe that can start changing a little bit. But Pascal Siakam's contract is only $2.2 million less than Zach LaVine. So you got to start looking at those type of things. But it may just be that the market this year for Zach is not going to be there for the Chicago Bulls. And, as we hear more and more of this, and as this goes further along, Zach has had his name out there earlier this season than almost anybody else. And he may be the last to go if he even is traded. But hearing a clip like this, hearing Dave McMenamin talk about it, it brings it back home that right now teams are looking at how you can bring in other players that, let's be clear, Colin Sexton and Tyus Jones, even though he said Tyus Washington on the clip, and it's misspeak, I do it sometimes too, they're not as good of basketball players as Zach LaVine. They're just not. And so it really gets back to the front office and saying that the front office still holds the power in this, right? They do not have to trade Zach LaVine by this trade deadline unless him and his representation make it completely awkward. But I think even at them, I think they're a little bit humbled by the trade market that's not there for Zach LaVine as well. And I think that's going to push it to and that's why you see Zach trying to fit in because, hey, it gets difficult. Once you start hearing your name out there and saying, hey, does he contribute to winning? Oh, he's also playing bad. Look how better his team's playing without him. It forces you to, hopefully, if you have any level of self-awareness, to realize, let me step it the hell up. Now, some concerns definitely about how the Bulls have been playing since Zach LaVine came back. Like, they still have won way more games than what they've lost. But it's that concerning as far as the ball sticking around, the offense feeling stagnated again. And so, best believe teams around the NBA are watching that to see how that continues before pulling the trigger. But I still do think, I'm holding out right now that by the trade deadline, there's going to be a team that's ready to pull the trigger because of the other moves made around their conference. Let's just see what that ends up meaning with Zach LaVine. Now, outside of just Zach LaVine, you got to ask the question, are the Bulls going to be buyers or sellers at the trade deadline? Of course, we got the Zach LaVine rumors out there, the rumors of that they could be looking to move DeMar DeRozan if he doesn't reach a contract extension. We also recently, both from Casey Johnson and Mark Stein, have gotten that the Chicago Bulls are open to moving Lonzo Ball's contract in a larger deal to bring talent into this team. So you got to ask yourself, are the Bulls buyers or sellers at this deadline? And I think I got them marked as sellers at this trade deadline because I look at what they're trying to send out. Yeah, they're not trying to just sell players off to just get anything back, but I still have them more as buyers, as sellers than buyers, because when you look at it, Zach LaVine, we already know we talked about that ad nauseum. DeMar DeRozan, we know about that, not coming to a contract extension. Zoe's contract, we talked about that now. Drummond, there's been some rumors they're hesitant to move off Drummond. And Javon Carter, that's probably the most likely assets that the Bulls are open to moving. Patrick Williams, they're not moving Patrick Williams at this deadline. It's not happening. Julian Phillips, Dalen Terry, they're not moving at all either. Ayo Dosunmu, I don't see them being willing to move him with the way that he's really stepping up in that bench and the uncertainty about where the team's going forth to. So that's kind of where the Bulls sit at on assets that they're trying to move if they can find somebody to buy in on those assets. Now, what they're going to get back in cases like that, it can range anywhere between a player, salary cap filler, pick, right? That's kind of what we heard. We've heard that they're trying to look for win now players if they do get that. So not necessarily super young players, but maybe players that can contribute and still have a little bit of youth there. The Bulls are 14-9 since November 30th. Over that time, they also have the 6th ranked defense in the league, and they've pushed themselves from being ranked 22nd defensively all the way up to 12th overall on the whole season. But like I said, they're 6th in defense since November 30th. This is a team that is trying to still make their move for either the playoffs or the play-in. Now, there are going to be Bulls fans that agree and disagree with that mindset. You have a lot of Bulls fans that want to see this team bottom out even in a weak draft to try to get that next that bite at the apple of what a player that could turn into that next star. And so that's kind of the Bulls' mindset and methodology about how they go into this trade deadline is going to be interesting to watch because it just leaves so much up to question on the direction that you can take this team, right? We know that Alex Caruso, I could have put him on the current assets because he is a player that if the Bulls make Alex Caruso available in trade talks, the Bulls are going to get assets back. There will be more teams probably calling on Alex Caruso than either DeMar or either Zach. That's a mix of what he brings to the court, the fact he can fit in on any team, and the fact that his contract is pennies on the dollar, basically, compared to those other two players. But we know that we've heard that the Bulls are not taking calls on Alex Caruso, so I'm not even going to mention him in this Now, if we do get a trade deadline deal, a last-minute deal where they move Caruso and they get a deal back that none of us are expecting, there's an outside chance of that, of course, right? This is the NBA. We know anything can happen and will happen in a lot of ways. And so, at and I talked about it a little bit on yesterday's episode, the Bulls cannot afford to have another completely quiet trade deadline. Another trade deadline that goes by and that you just wait to the buyout market. I don't see that happening this season because I think now you got to realize this core isn't working. Now, Nikola Vucevic isn't on that trade assets list either because I just don't think any teams are in on him right now. I also think that Bulls fans are really underestimate Nikola Vucevic. The Vooch slander has gotten a bit ridiculous, right? But all the think pieces on it, it is what it is. But I don't think right now that, and I think Nikola Vucevic is probably going to end up playing out that whole 3 years on his contract here with Chicago. Hopefully they get another young center to kind of bring along over that time, and hopefully that's the case. But the Bulls the front office at this trade deadline has tons of decisions at their feet that they got to figure out. And they're getting passed up by teams not only in their division, but other teams around the Eastern Conference. And this has steadily been happening over the last 3 years. Now, it makes sense, right? The first year, you had just brought that team together. Yes, Lonzo went down with injury, but there was some hope that he was going to come back. They weren't going to be very active at that trade deadline. They ended up signing Tristan Thompson as a buyout player. It went bad. Last season, they were still hoping some Lonzo Ball news came out, but at the same time, they didn't want to give up major pieces of their team to get some of the players that were out there back. Didn't make a move. This year, you now have 3 seasons of data on your core that's not working, and you have to be willing to move off parts of this core for the acceleration of the young players and the acceleration of your team overall. And I saw you guys in the comments as well saying, well, if this Bulls team is trying to make the playoffs, maybe playing young players doesn't fit in that. And here's where I'm going to go with that. Good coaches find a way. And nobody's saying that Julian Phillips and Dalen Terry should be playing 15 and 18 minutes per game. That's not what's being said here. But it's being said that you have to figure out a way to get them some consistent minutes, to get them game time reps. And that's the biggest thing. Even if it's 8 minutes, if it's 10 minutes one game, 8 minutes for a couple of games, 6 minutes another, get them in there, especially while your roster is depleted. I think that's another part that a lot of people missed in that statement. And so whatever the roster looks like after the trade deadline, I think a lot of people are expecting it to either look considerably different or it's going to look the exact same. And it's going to be fun in a way to watch the reactions from the Bulls fan base to see if we go through yet another trade deadline and no moves are made for this team that clearly has parts that aren't working together. And the thing that I worry about the most with this front office is not just that they can't make a deal, but I worry that they hold on to players so long because they see the value that then by the time they realize it may be time to move off this, the value's gone or so low, or you're put in a situation like, make no mistake about it, DeMar has value still on this team despite what some Bulls fans will have you think. Zach still has value on this team despite what some Bulls fans will have you think. Nikola Vucevic still has value on this roster despite of what some Bulls fans will think. The problem is all 3 of those things together equal a team that does not have a winning record, does not have a positive point differential. You're not going to continue. You're not going to move up by continuing to hold on to a core that has shown you via results that it does not work. We had a 35-game stretch of it working, and a player that helped that work in Lonzo Ball, it ain't walking through that door anytime soon. So, that's the things that this front office really has to look at and evaluate. And it's going to be fun to see how aggressive they want to be at this trade deadline, how much they really want to break up this team. And like I said, they're a front office that typically plays things really close to the vest. And so maybe there's something out there that we don't expect and that we don't see and the pundits don't see as well. And if that happens, cool. A lot of people didn't see the Bulls trading for Nikola Vucevic when we did trade for him at that trade deadline. Do they have it in them again to try to reshape a roster yet again now that you have players that have stepped up and Kobe White showing you what he can be? And the fact, change is legit now. So let's see what this front office does, man. Like I said, I got my problems. I got my hopes and things with this roster. But we'll see what this front office ends up doing. But I tell you what, there are going to be a lot of Bulls fans that if the AK and Eversley sit on their hands yet again through another transaction period of this year's trade deadline after only signing Javon Carter and Torrey Craig in free agency, man, there's going to be some Bulls fans that are ready to riot for this team, man. And I can't wait to see what that fallout is. But all right, we also have a game tonight against the Toronto Raptors. And this is a Toronto's Raptors team that just made a major trade, the second major trade that they've made on the year. We don't know how many. I don't think any of their new acquired players are actually going to play tonight. We'll see what happens with that one. But this is a team clearly going through a transition period, right? And, Bruce Brown was already out with injury even before he got traded to the Toronto Raptors. And Jakob was already out for this team. This Bulls team needs to come in here and take advantage of a team going through a transitional change. That's it. We have seen too much of the Chicago Bulls with the main pieces go up against team with main pieces of their roster out. In those games, they end up losing, or it's just way too close. How serious are the Bulls about coming in here and taking care of business today? That's the thing I'm going to be watching the most. Yes, they got Emmanuel quickly. He is a player that can go off. He has the potential to do that. We already seen Dennis Schroeder kill us at times before. Gary Trent Jr. is probably going to be starting with Bruce Brown probably being out. RJ Barrett's a player that lit us up before. Scotty Barnes. Don't let Scotty Barnes kill you, right? So it's going to be fun to watch this team come up against a team that has historically given them problems. But this is a very now different Toronto Raptors team. And I want to see the Bulls finally be one of those teams that takes advantage of a team at a deficit. You don't let Scotty Barnes kill you tonight, period. Don't let Scotty Barnes and Emmanuel quickly and Dennis Schroeder kill you tonight. Don't do it. Come in here. Play your brand of defense. Force turnovers. Get rebounds. Get the damn job done. And that's what it's overall that I'm looking for this Bulls team today. Just get the damn job done. Can you do that? Can you come in here and can you do that? Or are we going to see another game where head coach Billy Donovan is outcoached by a team with a worse record than us that's missing pieces of their roster, right? That is clearly now sent out players and not gotten as good of players back. Can you come in here and take care of business? I want to see this Bulls team stand on business tonight. That's it, right? That's it. We got basically everybody back healthy. Ayo Dosunmu's likely to play in this game. Patrick Williams still questionable. Of course, Torrey Craig's out. But other than that, can we just take care of the damn job, man? Can we do that? Shoot the ball effectively. Go through your offense. Play as a team. This your turn, my turn, bull crap. Stop doing that. Move without the ball. The simplicities of NBA basketball. Take care of business. That's it. That's really it. And I hate to oversimplify it, but that's really just what it comes down to. Go into Toronto and take care of business. This team has been too talented and has shown too many flashes for it to steadily be a team that when the going gets tough, we sit there and look at, hey, is this the same team that just beat such and such? You're not going to keep playing the San Antonio Spurs and Charlotte Hornets. Come and take care of business. That's what I want to see, a team that comes into the building in Toronto and understands the job in front of them, executes the game plan, play as a team, get the dub, and then get back out, man. You don't play again until Saturday. Take care of the damn business. And I would hate to see this Bulls team let somebody like Grady Dick go off on you. Take care of the business. That's it, right? And like I said, I really want to give a statistical breakdown, and this is where the Bulls can do it like I typically do. But at this point, I don't even care about none of that. Can you simply take care of the business in front of you, get the dub, and then go out and then play another team that's severely hurting in injuries as well in the Memphis Grizzlies? Stack up these wins where you can. We shouldn't still be questioning the teams that are below us that we should be beating. Just come in there and take care of it. Get the job done, move on, go about your business. Get Kobe, Zach, combine for 50. DeMar, get your 25, right? Nikola Vucevic, rebound the goddamn ball and act like you know you're a goddamn center in this league. Let's just take care of business. That's it. That's my preview of the game. Is it an oversimple preview? Absolutely. But I don't care at this point. I'm so frustrated with seeing this team step down the level of competition. Just take care of the business. That's all I need you to do. Take care of it. But all right, moving on from that, let's get into it. We got one voicemail today. I'm trying to play a little bit because you guys have been stacking them. We got one voicemail. This one's from Shay. Let's go and play that now.
Yo, what's up, Haize? It's Shay. I've talked about this before, but why is it that we force a lot of turnovers, but we don't convert them a lot? And one of the reasons, and I was watching recent games, and it's like when we get a turnover, we tend to jog up the court. Now, what I find stupid is when you get, that's the whole point of fast break points. And honestly, those are the most easiest points you can get. If somebody gets a turnover or Ascus or Iodasumo gets a steal, everybody needs to be running up the court and getting in a position to score. Or we'll get a turnover and then we'll get in a position to score, but then we'll try to take a damn jump shot or three, go to the basket, nobody is there. That's the easiest way you can get points. I don't understand this team sometimes, man. Anyway, tell me what you think. Peace.
Points off turnovers. The Bulls right now are 18th in the league in points off turnovers. That's overall in the season. I'm sure it's probably higher if we use that since November stat that I like to use with this team when things really started changing for them. But overall, it's just this. This team, at times in transition, acts like they don't all know where to go and how to move, right? And that is why having point guards out there that communicate and things like that are so good. The best players that we have in transition, Io, Alex Caruso, Kobe White, Zach LaVine. DeMar's gotten better in transition. Pat was becoming really good in transition as well before he went down. And, of course, Andre Drummond. And I think outside of those players sometimes we have some areas where we completely struggle at, and it causes the team to, not be able to take advantage of some of the easy opportunities. So I agree with you. I want to see them be one of those teams that just moves with intention when you get a turnover. And so often, we have one player moving fast and then, some don't. And, of course, I know Vooch in transition is always going to be best as the trailer. You're not going to get Vooch running up and down the court, but he can still be utilizing that as well. I do think that suffers from sometimes taking the ball out of players like Kobe's hand and Io's hand. When DeMar's on the court in transition, we end up typically putting the ball in his hand so he can pass because he's not the best in transition himself. And I think that sometimes holds the other parts of the team back, right? And like I said, Drummond, Caruso are definitely two players that can thrive in that. Torrey Craig was really good in transition as well, knowing how to create that space and those angles to take as well. And so hopefully this team can get back to that. It's a great point, Shay. Very, very great that you caught on that. And I think overall with this team, I just want to see this team be an offense that just makes sense, right? And that is easy points. That is getting, taking advantage of your other team being in a disadvantage. So let's see if the Bulls can become better at points off turnovers. 18th in the league. That's in the lower half. So let's see if we can get them up to being, maybe more mid, right? And so let's see how that's going to go over the course of the season. But great voicemail for Shane. As always, thank you for leaving that voicemail. That's my time for today, guys. Make sure you guys are following the show at Bull Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullcentralpod@gmail.com. And then lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, thanks to you guys. And like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See red if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.